I remember him coming out after he performed the surgery, and he said to me, yep, he said, all good, removed everything, you've got clear margin, happy about everything. So I said, oh, what would you mean? Like, what's a clear margin? He said, let's put it this way. He goes, it's like you've won the lottery, he said.
In 1995, Tina was diagnosed with endometrial stromal sarcoma, a rare cancer of the pelvis. She was told a full hysterectomy was required to remove her cancer. After her operation, she was given what she thought was incredible news. Her cancer had been removed and no further treatment was necessary. But unfortunately, this wasn't quite the case. As a precaution, every 3 months, Tina returned to the Royal Free Hospital for scans. 8 scans later, and 2 years to the date of her hysterectomy, Tina received some devastating news.
Got a phone call here at 8 o'clock at night from the consultant.
And I said, look, unfortunately, we've seen the scans. There's a 6 centimetre tumour and a 3 centimetre tumour. I want you in sort of next week, and we're going to reoperate.
So I said to him, what is the procedure? And he said, well, this tumour in your bladder is so big. He said that the only way of making sure we get a clear margin, or we get it all, he said, is to remove your bladder. I said, no. I said, no way you are removing my bladder. He told me 2 years ago I had a clear margin, and look where I am now. There's no point you removing my bladder.
At that point there, he said you didn't have a clear margin. I insisted, well, hang on, you know, was the cancer different then? What's different then between now and before? Because Mr. Infantino, I'm not prepared to answer that question. I wasn't involved 2 years ago, and I'm not going to answer that question.
Tina suffered immensely due to Dr. McLean's medical negligence. But the NHS litigation agency made it extremely difficult for her to get any justice through the UK courts. Each year, the NHS litigation agency sets aside £26.1 billion in order to cover outstanding litigation. This is almost 1/4 of the annual NHS health budget. But in 2013, the NHS considered taking away a patient's right to sue. But is this really fair on those patients that have had their lives affected by medical negligence? Or should we give our doctors a break?
I think like any organisation, they're struggling to find funds, and the government has recognised that the costs of paying out compensation to many claimants who are deserving goes not just to millions, but is several £billion. And that all has to be found from frontline services. So the government has looked at ways of, I believe, actively discouraging claimants from bringing claims.
Dr. McLean's medical negligence was massively destructive for Tina. She went on to have another 13 operations. The cancer severely damaged her kidneys, and she has now lost parts of her bladder.
All I wanted was him to apologise, and for him, this is McLean, to stand, to stand account that he had done something wrong, because he had done something wrong. What the major thing he did wrong is that he didn't have a clear margin. So when he did a hysterectomy and he told me I had a clear margin, I didn't. So what he should have done in '95 is offered me radiotherapy.
The NHS do recognise their responsibility to patients and are actively making improvements to encourage more vigilant practice.
As part of our normal practice, we look at things that go wrong. And every week we have a meeting, a confidential meeting with our sort of junior members of staff and the nurses, and we call it a mortality and morbidity meeting. And we discuss all deaths and all complications, that is, all things that go wrong after surgery.
Doctors take time to reflect on their mistakes. But for some doctors, there are reasons why mistakes happen in the first place. On the 28th of October, junior doctors took to the streets of Leeds to protest against longer contract hours. But the main worry was not for themselves, but instead for their patients' safety.
We're working tired, and patients are already sick enough without us potentially making mistakes that we wouldn't make when we weren't tired.
The main worry is the patient safety. We're going to be working longer hours, and we're going to be tired, and tired doctors make mistakes.
It seems every year the NHS's budget is essentially being wasted on medical liabilities. Mistakes in the workplace are made every day, and while some of them can be inconsequential, others can be life-changing.
I wouldn't advise anyone to go through that.
Claimants like Tina simply want justice and compensation for the devastation they have endured. But is this too much pressure for our doctors, who are simply trying to do their job?